Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're mapping out the ultimate island itinerary for a Mediterranean nation that somehow packs 7,000 years of civilization into a space probably smaller than your hometown. We're zeroing in on Malta's absolute most beautiful natural and historic landmarks, so you can hit every unforgettable spot on this tiny but incredibly mighty archipelago.
Now, with over 300 sunny days every single year, Malta isn't just your standard beach escape. You're practically guaranteed perfect weather to explore what's essentially a massive open-air museum. We're talking ancient prehistoric temples and grand Baroque palaces standing right next to these surreal limestone cliffs that just plunge straight into the turquoise sea. So, let's get right into it and organize this journey. To truly capture the essence of Malta, our master plan needs to cross 3 distinct islands and nail these absolute must-haves. That dense 7,000-year history, the insanely dramatic coastlines, and of course, those hidden gems most tourists just completely miss.
To pull this off, we've got a pretty packed agenda today. We'll start at the Grand Harbor Gateway, move into central Malta's ancient heartland, check out some dramatic coastal escapes, take a pristine detour to Comino, and finally wrap up with Gozo's legends and landscapes.
Let's kick things off right at the Grand Harbor Gateway, exploring Valletta and the 3 cities. Our itinerary officially begins at the Grand Harbor. This is the island's gateway, and honestly, its historical battleground. Right at the center is Valletta, a 16th century capital that was brilliantly designed from scratch to actually channel cooling sea breezes right through its limestone walls. It was built as a hardcore military stronghold right after the Great Siege of 1565. Get this, just 8,000 knights and Maltese warriors held off a massive force of 40,000 Ottoman invaders. It's literally one of history's most uneven matchups, and the city rose directly from those ashes. But the conflict didn't stop there. Centuries later, this exact same area became the most bombed place on Earth during World War II. Over 6,700 bombs were dropped here in just 2 months. Entire districts and the original naval strongholds, known as the 3 cities, were completely flattened. Yet the nation's resilience somehow endured. Okay, before we leave the harbor area, you absolutely have to take a quick trip down to the Marsaxlokk fish market. Every Sunday, the smell of fresh seafood fills the air, and bobbing in the water are these incredibly vibrant red, blue, and yellow luzu boats. Look closely at the front of them, and you'll spot the Eye of Osiris. It's a 2,700-year-old Phoenician symbol, and locals still swear by it to protect fishermen from those unpredictable Mediterranean waters. Moving on to our next major stop, central Malta's ancient heartland, focusing on the silent city and the miracle. The contrast here is just wild. Think about your typical bustling modern capital, or even Valletta, which we just talked about, and compare that to Mdina. They don't call it the silent city for nothing. There are no public cars allowed, it's only home to a few hundred residents, and there's this incredible, almost eerie stillness as you walk through its perfectly preserved sunlit limestone alleys. It's a literal time capsule, complete with original fortifications that go all the way back to the Phoenicians around 700 BC. Just down the road from Mdina, your itinerary brings you to an absolute architectural marvel, the Mosta Rotunda. This church boasts one of Europe's largest unsupported domes, built entirely by Maltese craftsmen without a single piece of steel reinforcement. But it also holds a massive, baffling mystery. Seriously, how does a 500-kilogram bomb crash into a crowded church and just not explode? Well, the answer is what locals call the miracle of Mosta. During a 1942 air raid, that massive bomb pierced right through the dome while 300 people were inside for mass. And miraculously, it failed to detonate. Adding this exact spot to your trip means you can stand right under that dome and see a replica of the unexploded bomb for yourself. It is such a profound testament to Malta's survival. All right, time to change the scenery with the dramatic coastal escapes, heading into Malta's wild western frontier. For this leg of the journey, we're leaving the ancient cities in the rearview mirror. Your coastal checklist has to include these spectacular natural landmarks. You can stand 253 meters up on the Dingli Cliffs and literally gaze out towards Sicily. Or you can hike over to the hidden coral lagoon to see fossilized sea creatures etched right into the rock. Visit the remote clay hills of Ġgantija, or kayak into the dazzling, almost glowing blue waters of the Blue Grotto sea caves. As you make your way further north along the coast, you can't miss this vibrant, highly visible structure standing out against the pale limestone, the Red Tower, built way back in 1649. Now, this wasn't just another fortress. It was an incredibly brilliant early warning system. Spaced just within line of sight of other towers, the Knights of St. John used smoke by day and fire by night to send alerts across the entire archipelago in a matter of minutes. That brings us to our archipelagic detour, Comino, the pristine retreat. Now keep in mind, Malta is an archipelago, and floating right smack between the main island and Gozo is Comino. It's fascinating how this tiny, isolated island has completely reinvented itself over the centuries. Under the Knights, it was a private hunting ground for wild boar. Then, in the 19th century, it served as a quarantine station for travelers suspected of carrying the plague. And today, it's completely morphed into a breathtakingly beautiful, protected marine area. When I say this place is off-grid, I really mean it. Comino has 0 cars, no real roads, and recently, exactly 1 permanent resident. It's an absolute must-visit, mostly to experience the Blue Lagoon. The turquoise water there is so incredibly pure and clear that the boats actually look like they're hovering in mid-air over the sandy bottom. You have to see it to believe it. Finally, we reach our grand finale, Gozo's legends and landscapes. A quick ferry ride past Comino drops us into a totally different vibe. Crossing over from the bustling main island of Malta into Gozo feels like stepping back into a deeply traditional, much quieter world. It's noticeably greener, and everyday life is still heavily rooted in ancient rural traditions. For instance, locals here are still out there hand-harvesting sea salt from coastal pans that were carved straight into the limestone over 350 years ago. But Gozo is also home to an absolute enigma, the Ġgantija Temples. These structures are a staggering 5,500 years old. Just to put that into perspective for a second, that means they predate both Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids by over a millennium. It's totally mind-blowing. It really begs the question, how on earth did they move 50-ton limestone blocks without wheels or metal tools? Well, local legend offers a pretty simple answer. Giants built them. And honestly, when you're walking through these massive ancient temple walls, which archaeologists tell us were once painted in vibrant red ochre, the idea of giant builders suddenly feels like the most logical explanation for such an insane feat of ancient engineering. Now, for the adventurous travelers out there, your Gozo itinerary simply has to include Oued El Gasri. Tucked way off the beaten path, following these steps truly feels like descending into nature's own secret passageway. You find this hidden valley, walk down a steep staircase carved directly into the sheer rock face, and boom, you're rewarded with a secluded, fjord-like inlet with absolutely crystal clear water. Capping off our ultimate itinerary is the raw geological power of Dwejer Bay. This entire area is laced with ancient fossils, a stark reminder that you're walking on what was once a prehistoric seabed. You can take a boat through an 80-meter tunnel straight into the inland sea, dive the dramatic Blue Hole sinkhole, check out Fungus Rock, which the Knights fiercely guarded for its rare medicinal plants, and visit the site where the iconic Azure window arch dramatically collapsed into the sea back in 2017. From spectral knights patrolling ancient harbor walls to the myths of ancient giants, and from perfectly engineered 16th century cities to plunging coastal cliffs, Malta truly is a treasure trove. It's just waiting for you to turn this master itinerary into a reality. So my question for you to leave with today is this. With 7,000 years of civilization layered into these rugged limestone islands, which era of Malta's incredible story will you step into first? Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you in the next one.